Hello, everybody. A very warm welcome to the 4NewMobility Leadership Talk podcast. Today, I am most honored and excited to host Professor George Yannis from the National Technical University of Athens, a leading international expert in road safety and sustainable transport. A passionate advocate for safer cities through 30 kilometers per hour speed limits. George is also a dedicated marathon runner. Welcome, George, and thank you very much for the privilege to have you on this edition of the podcast.
Thank you, Astrid. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, George. I already know you for some time, and I would like to start off with a question. What motivated your deep dive into the systemic impacts of citywide 30 kilometers per hour speed limits? And how do these findings contribute to broader Vision Zero and safe system strategies across the EU?
Listen, Astrid, I have been working for more than 30 years on road safety. And I can tell you that just after the pandemic, it is the first time that we see such a single measure with such a significant benefit with such a low cost. Citywide 30 kilometers per hour speed limits, I would say it is the since long awaited measure to improve road safety so quickly and without a big cost. So we say today, after 4 or 5 years of implementation, that it's not simply a road safety measure. The citywide 30 kilometers per hour speed limit, it is a catalyzer for a new safe mobility culture in the cities, starting mainly in Europe. And we have seen that from our work that we save up to 37% of fatalities, of lives from road crashes. We have never seen such an important road safety benefit so quickly. So this is the main reason why we have seen it as a unique opportunity to make a breakthrough in road safety and promote something that will make European roads much safer. And of course, as you mentioned, this is exactly what is aligned with the broader Vision Zero and safe system approach strategies of the European Union. The objective of slower traffic, of lower speed limits, is to create a forgiving environment that protects specifically the most vulnerable road users, pedestrians, cyclists and motorcyclists. So it is really a more systemic approach towards Vision Zero because we look at the safety of all road users and not only talking about cars. And going a little bit further, take into account that we know that crashes is a major societal problem. We know that speeding it is the reason behind. And now that we know that with 30 kilometers per hour speed limits, we can face effectively this societal problem, we believe that it's time that this is not anymore competency of the cities. If the European Union, the European Commission wants to work towards Vision Zero, we need to implement European rules about urban areas and speed limits of 30 kilometers per hour, addressing this major societal health problem of road crashes, as was the case with alcohol, with smoking. So it's time to follow scientific evidence about the effectiveness of 30 kilometers per hour and go for European rules about speed limits of 30 kilometers in all European cities.
That's very interesting, George. Thank you very much. And so there is a lot of benefit from the 30 kilometer speed limit, as you say, at very little cost. So nevertheless, why hasn't it been implemented yet all over Europe? Are there still implementation challenges, impediments? And how do you think these impediments could be overcome?
Yes. it's not a change. At any cultural change, there is inertia. We can say that the majority of the cities examining, implemented or not, this 30 kilometer per hour speed limit had faced similar challenges. The most important one is that speeding remains today a standard and desired behavior among most drivers and riders, and especially for young people. And also we can say that speeding is also promoted, or at least largely tolerated, by the society, the authorities and the industry. We don't see too much reaction against speeding in the society, and however we see supporters of speed. And the voices of the scientists and of the vulnerable road users who are advocating for lower speeds in general remains weak against societies that are convinced and are focusing on cars and on speeding and all this culture of speed around us. So it is a cultural change that we have to work for. And this is the main challenge. Of course, there is an increasing societal debate about speeding and about speed limits. And there are more and more initiatives about safer and sustainable mobility and new schemes of managing road infrastructure in the cities. And we have excellent examples in different cities in Europe, like Paris, Brussels, Spain, Wales, where on one hand they promote the 30 kilometers per hour citywide speed limits, but also they promote infrastructure about cycling, about priority of public transport. So there is a mobility culture change which changes really the culture of mobility, we would say, both in terms of safety and in terms of mobility habits. Still, is not an easy task, especially when a new measure is implemented. There are a lot of reactions. We have seen in Wales, we have seen in Italy, in Bologna. The next day, the central government said that this will go from local competency to central competency. So there is a vivid discussion. However, the examples and the monitoring and evaluation of all these measures is positive, and that's the reason we see more and more cities and more countries going for safer rules like the 30 kilometer per hour speed limits. With the example of Greece is going to pass this rule in all Greek cities, and the same will do, it is announced and will be implemented in Ireland. So we don't talk anymore about cities deciding for their cities, city authorities, but we are talking about a national rule for all cities. And again, I can give you a fundamental example about the challenges of implementing this. Very often we hear passenger car drivers complaining that they are safe with 50 kilometers per hour, and they find 30 kilometers per hour too restrictive. And it might be true for passengers and the occupants of passenger cars that are quite safe with 50 kilometers. But the new 30 kilometer per hour speed limits are intended to ensure pedestrians, cyclists and motorcycle safety, which are vulnerable outside the safe cars, and they account for more than 70% of fatalities in the cities. So at the end of the day, we say to the car drivers, listen, this measure is not only for you, it's mainly for the people outside your car. So you change a little bit your habit, but then there is a whole benefit for safety in the society outside your cars. So the discussion continues. There is reactions. There are people in favor, people against. However, the success lies into supporting and efficient communication campaigns before, during, and after the implementation. We need the studies before to see how was the safety level and the risks before, how was during the implementation, and how it is evolving the 6 months, first year, the second year after, with scientific monitoring and demonstrating the benefits. So it is an ongoing process which we see today that more and more cities are passing the barriers of inertia, and they go much towards the new direction of slower speeds in the cities.
Yeah, these are very good developments you cited there. Even the whole of Greece and Ireland prescribing for their urban areas the speed limit. That's very welcoming. And I also say I have myself experienced the difference in Brussels. I have been living there before, and it was very dangerous going by bike, and it was very polluted. And I came back to Brussels after they had introduced the 30-kilometer speed limit recently. And they had introduced it, I think, in 2021, and introduced more bike lanes, and so also I think for protecting the vulnerable road users, and a totally different movement as pedestrian, as cyclist in Brussels. It's not only the statistics. As a user, you realize road safety has really improved. And that is why, what is your experience, apart from the statistical reductions in fatalities and injuries you have cited? How is your experience? How does the speed limit shape citizens' perception of safety and urban quality of life? Did you analyze that?
Yes, you are very right. With the example of Brussels, we don't only see the statistics going down of road fatalities. We see a totally different mobility pattern in the city. And we have seen also from studies, and everybody can see, that pedestrians, cyclists are multiplied. And why they are multiplied in the cities of 30 kilometers per hour speed limits? They are multiplied because they are not anymore afraid to go on the road, to go out. Cars are not anymore the speedy, heavy vehicles which are making people stay at home, not walking and not cycling. So we see a totally different pattern of mobility just because of the new rules of 30 kilometers per hour. And we have seen in studies that with the 30 kilometers per hour speed limits, after 1 year and a half, 2 years, we see also a modal shift. We see more people using public transport, because then they realize that it's not anymore useful to go with speedy cars. They cannot speed anymore. They can more easily walk to the bus stop, to the metro. They can take public transport, which are also intensified. They have more space. So there is a total different change in the mobility patterns of the city, with direct effect on the quality of life. There is more space now for pedestrians and cyclists. There is more priority for public transport, and the city is working towards the service of the people and not the service of cars. Mm-hmm. And this also has a direct impact on environment, energy consumption, where again it is a totally new paradigm of mobility, of new mobility in the cities in Europe.
And for this rollout, that it is successful, the speed limit, is it important that stakeholders work together? So the local governments, the law enforcement institutions, and civil society. What is your experience on that?
You touch a very sensitive issue. Enforcement is efficient, but is not well seen. So authorities and stakeholders, they have to fine-tune how much enforcement and how much campaigns and how much all this affect behavioral change. And of course, in every new measure, enforcement is not very strict in the beginning. In all cases, authorities left time to the society, to the road users to adapt. And we have seen quite interesting results where the first period, even without enforcement, just suggestions, there was a significant percentage of the population, about 20%, 20-25%, which changed their behavior without enforcement. But you see, the 30 kilometers per hour speed limits makes that if some cars comply, the following cars must also comply because they have no other alternative. So we have seen without enforcement around 25% of lower speeds in the cities. And this is, we have seen then in statistics that this is translated in lives saved. So, okay, enforcement, we should go progressively. But in all cities, enforcement, speed enforcement, especially with cameras, get in gradually, and there is more and more camera enforcement, and there is much more compliance. And now we see, after 3 months, 6 months, enforcement is becoming more important, and we see these so high safety improvements with totally different speeding behavior and totally different and lower number of fatalities and injuries on the road. So it is something that civil society and the authorities have to work together, especially for how to roll out enforcement in time.
Okay. And when you look at the data, maybe looking at all the benefits, are there concerns by road users that they say, oh, the speed limits, that will increase congestion and travel time? Are these concerns supported by the data you analyzed?
This is a very clear myth. We can understand that people are afraid with 30 kilometers per hour will have a higher travel time and lower average speed. This is not demonstrated by the studies, and I can explain also how it works. We have to understand that during the day there is congestion in most European cities. So average speed is not much higher than 30 kilometers per hour. And in cases that it is 30 kilometers per hour, we have speeds of 30 kilometers. We rush, and then we go and stop at the next traffic lights. And then we go fast, we rush, and we go to the next traffic lights. So for the traffic flow, there is no real loss of time if we don't rush and we go slowly to the next traffic lights. We have seen both with extensive traffic simulations and by measuring before and after the implementation of these 30 km per hour speed limits that the effect on traffic speed was more or less plus 2%, which is insignificant. And we have even seen that in the midterm, after 1 year and a half, after 2 years, that traffic becomes more fluid because there are lower speed variations, there is less accelerations, less decelerations, less start and stops at junctions, and traffic can benefit from these lower speeds. So it is really a myth that we are going to lose time by this 30 kilometers per hour. I could accept that there is, we're losing some time in the night hours when there is no traffic and people can go faster. Yes, there we lose some time, but it is right the moment that we have the most of the crashes, both with cars and pedestrians and cyclists, motorcyclists. So there, yes, it can be some loss of time, but it is so precious for saving lives. And anyway, we are talking for a minor part of the traffic during night time. The main part of the traffic it is during the day, and we didn't see a real effect on traffic efficiency.
Yeah, and I think in both cases, also day and night, you have, as you mentioned already, with less speed, you consume less fuel, so you have some economies there. You have less CO2 emissions. So this is the same day or night benefit of the lesser speed. And apart from these benefits, what are your perceptions? Are there other benefits that are not so easily seen, like, for instance, noise reduction or mental well-being in cities with speed limits?
According to the review of the implementation in these 17 cities, 30 kilometers per hour speed limits have driven emissions to a decrease by an average of 18%, and a reduction of noise pollution by an average of 0.5 decibel, which is not at all negligible. And a fuel consumption decreased by an average of 7%. So we see such high figures that we cannot achieve with any other measure. So slowing down brings a fundamental benefit for environment, energy consumption, and noise pollution. And which is something direct and from the first day. But just to repeat, that beyond safety, beyond environment and energy consumption, we have seen these tremendous changes in changing mode of transport, with more passengers using public transport, more pedestrians and cyclists. And there we can see that this active traveling through public transport, walking and cycling, brings in the mid and long term important health benefits. People are moving more, are getting more healthy instead of the passive car driving. So we see short-term, mid-term and long-term benefits of changing not only the safety in the city, but the whole mobility culture towards a more healthy habits and quality of life at the end of the day.
So these are very positive prospects there.
They are. That's the reason we are so positive.
Yeah. And looking ahead, George, to accelerate even more the implementation of safe, low-speed mobility in all urban areas across Europe, do you see any policy levers or innovations that can drive, that can support this development even more?
What is fundamental in policy is that we take initiatives at the national and European level. Because at local level, there might be inertia. There might be a lot of reactions. If the rule is coming from a higher level, from the European Union, from the government, then of course the local authorities can more easily implement the 30 kilometers per hour speed limits. And of course, they are the local authorities who know better their road network and can define the exceptions. Of course, the rules should be European, should be national, but the implementation is local, and the local authorities can identify roads, because always we are talking that with 30 kilometers per hour, there are main axes which still have 50 kilometers per hour. The local authorities will define in which road axis we have exception of higher speed limits. So this policy competency at higher level makes the job of local authorities much easier. And then, of course, we are talking both at the national level, but especially at local level, that every policy should consider at the same time safety and mobility in an integrated way in the city. Cities should redesign infrastructure with narrow lanes, with wider sidewalks, with protected cycle lanes, with raised pedestrian crossings. The whole policy of redesigning the infrastructure where the physical environment supports safe mobility, and then compliance and better behavior improves naturally to the road users. And then we add there the smart enforcement technologies with cameras, with digital fines, and sometimes we can use telematics for driver behavior and feedback to the drivers and the riders, where there are new tools, including for example, ride sharing, which are changing the patterns and both in terms of mobility and safety. And all this, of course, should be monitored, should be accompanied by public awareness campaigns, especially during the transition. So it is a combination of technical, behavioral, and political steps that should be initially driven by authority and then followed by the civil society and the whole and all road users.
Yeah, and we are already away on this path. We have already gone some way on this path. And now it's then up to maybe even us, and you also started a campaign with your marathons to raise awareness even more of the positive effects of all the benefits and the low costs, to leverage all these benefits of the speed limits. And George, and to raise this awareness beyond your academic achievements, you are also known for your unique global advocacy campaign, that raised already a lot of awareness for the speed limits, because you have been running 30 marathons in 30 months to promote the adoption of 30 kilometers per hour speed limits in cities worldwide. So I find this a very fascinating combination of your, say, sports and academic career. And I would like to ask you if you can share a bit of your experience in this endeavor.
I'm working since more than 30 years on road safety. And I have been promoting safety for years. But I witnessed that scientific talking is not penetrating the society that efficiently. That is exactly the reason that I decided to combine my passion of road safety promotion and my passion for running, because I am a marathon runner, to run 30 marathons in 30 months in order to actively promote the adoption of citywide 30 kilometers per hour speed limits in all cities, in order to pass the message much more clearly. And I can tell you that the reaction through the media, through the social media, through the scientific community, but the whole society was 10 times higher when I was talking about marathons and speed limits than when I was talking only about speed limits. So I broadened the audience from mobility experts to the whole society. It was a demanding challenge. With a busy schedule of work, also ran a marathon every month and succeeded all of them under 4 hours. I was so happy, however, that I raised awareness for safer traveling among the Greek, the European, and the global cities. And it was really a period of heavy campaigning with TVs, radio, social media. I mean, we had something like 500,000 page views annually, with an audience of more than 100,000 people. A lot of posts, a lot of interviews on the TV, and in several cities. I ran in 25 cities. The marathon, I was welcomed there with media and newspapers and magazines and presentations and conference. So I was so happy, very, very overwhelmed about the work behind, the workload, but also by the results to promoting the 30 kilometers per hour. So I would I would do it again, and I continue, of course, running marathons and continue promoting road safety in the 30 kilometers per hour. Because I said it is such a big change in our cities, in the quality of life in the cities, with such a small change in our habits. So the marathon continues.
Yeah, and you have already achieved a lot with it, I think, huh? So,
I'm very happy that we have results.
yeah, George, it's truly inspiring to listen to you, as well your statistical experience, your analysis, as well your sport experience and your promotion campaign running marathons. And you've shown us what's possible when science meets purpose.
Exactly, and I can tell you the link between running and safety is that both in long distance and marathon running and in driving,
Yeah.
we avoid high speeds.
Mhm.
We say always steady pace wins the race. So this applies for marathon and for sustainable mobility. So we practice it.
I like this motto, and maybe that should be the headline of this podcast. Steady pace wins the race. George, thank you very much.
Thank you very
And
much.
all success for you and all of us on this important journey towards Vision Zero. Thank you very much, George.
Thank you.